I've always thought of ADHD as being distracted, restless, and chaotic. But what if it's the reason that I've been able to hyperfocus my entire life? Looking back now at the age of 32, I've started to wonder, do I have ADHD? I never thought that my ability to focus intensely on one thing was a sign of ADHD. I always felt like my hyperfocus controlled me. But in retrospect, I'm starting to think it's a superpower that just needs harnessing. It's easy to look at ADHD as a problem of distraction, but in reality, to me, it's often the complete opposite. I don't struggle to pay attention. I struggle to control what I pay attention to. When something captures my interest, I don't just focus on it, I obsess over it. I disappear into it completely, sometimes for hours or days at a time, at the cost of everything else. That's been the pattern my whole life. I remember cycling through all of my friends' Xbox 360 games, searching for that one that would truly capture my interest. I'd load up game after game, sometimes not even finishing the loading screen before promptly ejecting the disc. It wasn't that I was bored, it was that I needed to find the exact right thing to hook me, and the games that didn't felt painful to look at. I still do this now. I'll endlessly scroll through Steam, adding games to my wish list, reading reviews, watching gameplay, without ever actually playing anything. The search itself becomes the obsession. I think this is why I've cycled through so many different passions in my lifetime. At first I thought I wanted to be a professional skateboarder, then a StarCraft 2 pro, then a highly ranked Counter-Strike player. But in truth, I didn't really want those things. I gave them up the moment my friends lost interest. It was their energy that I craved, the shared momentum. When they were invested, I could focus so intensely that I improved dramatically. But once they moved on, so did I. Even with YouTube, I didn't truly commit at first. Going back to 2018, me and my friends were all focused on growing our channels together. One of my friends started getting views on his channel, and that motivated me to try harder. This very channel even briefly became monetized back then, but then the energy began to fade. When that energy faded, I found myself losing interest. My friend group fractured, and without that external drive from others, I moved on to something else, just like I always had. It wasn't until the past year and a half that I finally managed to break that cycle. I've been able to focus my energy in a way that feels intentional rather than just a reaction. I think making YouTube videos reminds me a lot of playing video games. I get to watch the numbers go up. It's like leveling up in an RPG game. That's also why I love going to the gym. All those years spent grinding in World of Warcraft and RuneScape, I just loved the feeling of progress. But unlike those past obsessions, YouTube has become something for myself. I don't rely on external energy to keep me engaged anymore. It's my own momentum now. I get to express my thoughts, refine my ideas, and push my skills further. It feels like my hyperfocus finally has a direction. When I'm in the zone, whether I'm writing, editing, or even just typing, it feels like my brain is truly alive. I love typing fast. There's something incredibly satisfying about furiously typing without even looking. It's like playing an instrument. When I get into that flow, my mind isn't thinking. My mind's actually quiet for once. I just know what I need to do. That's the feeling that I've been chasing my entire life. I used to think that my problem was just being messy, both in my environment and my thoughts. My office would be cluttered, my ideas scattered, and I'd feel like my brain was trying to process everything all at once. When there are too many things in front of me, I just freeze. It's the same when I try and order food at a restaurant. I'll spend ages staring at the menu, feeling torn between trying something new and sticking with what I already know is good. I always end up ordering the same thing every time, but the whole process is exhausting, like I'm mourning all the food that I didn't get to try. It's such a stupid little thing, but it happens constantly. Maybe that's why I've stuck with YouTube for so long. It gives me one thing to focus on. It's a way to channel all this scattered energy into something that feels meaningful, something that grows and evolves, just like a character in a video game. The problem is, hyperfocus isn't always productive. I tend to work until I'm completely drained, only stopping when I have no choice. I used to have to exhaust myself just to be able to sleep at night. One time I started watching the show Lost. I was so enraptured by it, I watched it from the moment that I woke up until it was time to go to sleep. This viewing ritual lasted an entire week. I didn't stop until I had watched the whole show. Even when me and my fiancé start watching a new show that we both like, I will get so intensely interested in it that I feel compelled to spend all of my free time watching it until I finish it. My fiancé hates it every time. Over the past year, I've noticed a pattern. If I push myself beyond my normal limits, working until I feel totally burnt out, I actually come back stronger. It's like my brain resets and suddenly I have more energy than before. It's not the healthiest strategy, but right now, it's the only way that I know how to force breaks. I don't even know if it's possible to control this hyper-focused energy, but only to direct it. YouTube has become my lens, focusing all that scattered light. Before, my energy would just leak out everywhere, like my messy office, my unfinished ideas, my abandoned projects. And when that chaos gets too overwhelming, I'd escape into video games, not in a fun, intentional way, but in a mindless, avoidant way. I think that the only way to harness hyperfocus is to find something that consumes you completely. Something that lets you pour all that energy into something meaningful. I don't know if I actually have ADHD. I've never been diagnosed, but looking back, I can't ignore the patterns. Struggling to shift between tasks, cycling through intense passions, then dropping them, obsessing over details but avoiding things that don't immediately interest me, feeling overwhelmed by choice to the point of decision paralysis. It's not about whether I can focus, it's about how I can focus, and whether I have control over it. Maybe one day I'll look into an actual diagnosis, or maybe I don't need one, because whether or not I have ADHD, this is just how my brain works. And after all these years, I think I'm finally starting to understand it. ADHD might not be the whole picture. For years I thought that I was just an introvert, someone who needed time alone to recharge. But as I'm piecing all of this together, I'm starting to wonder if it's something else at play here. Something that goes beyond what I thought I understood about myself. If you're interested to hear more, then click this video here. I think you'll like it. Thanks for listening.